So check this out, everybody. We were talking about how we're developing a new casting slip for Curt Hammerly, and we've been testing every commercially available kaolin in America in different combinations to see how they work, and that's been going great. But we got a really interesting flaw that we wanted to show everybody. So this is sodium flashing on the clay, and very specifically, this is pure EPK made up as a casting slip. And this is really interesting because Maya Rumsey, Maya Melissa Pottery, had tagged us in a post about something we talked about in the podcast that was the same thing, which is sodium deposits on clays. Well, some materials have a lot of sodium in them naturally, and this is one of them. And how we can tell that this is a sodium deposit is that these bars, so these bars were, the sample was dried on a wire rack, and these bars were where the clay touched the wire rack, and so no water was evaporating through them, but in the spaces between, this is where water was evaporating. So this is pure EPK, this is Kingsley kaolin, and that really doesn't have quite the same problem, although it does have it a little bit in there, but some of them, like this is Opticast, and then Opticast doesn't have any of that sodium deposit in it, but it really ties to that EPK. And what's going on is that soluble sodium is coming to the surface when the clay dries. And it was in the clay naturally, and when it mixes with water, it dissolves, and then when the clay dries, it evaporates and comes to the surface, and the water can go off into the atmosphere, but the sodium can't, so you get it left behind. It doesn't really leave any fired results. This is the same clay, but fired, and fired it really doesn't do much of anything, but it definitely shows up on the raw clay. And it's definitely tied to the kaolin, and I'll show you that with some of the other samples. This is the survey of all the clays that we've got, and all in different combinations. And what's interesting is when you've got EPK, all the clays on this board have EPK in them. They all have that flashing, but it's just in the green. It's not in the fired, but we can see all that flashing, but not all the clays do. Like we said, here's Opticast combinations. That really doesn't have them. Here's KO Pearl, and that doesn't really have them. But that EPK, there's a lot of soluble sodium coming out in that material. So watch out for stuff like this, soluble sodium coming through in your glazes and your clay bodies. It can cause things like flashing, but it's just something that naturally occurs in our clay bodies all the time. If you want to learn more about how your clay bodies work and how to work with them and how to make them better and how to know everything you need to know about clay bodies, join us for our Introduction to Clay Bodies class starting in July, and we'll see you there.